Well, I think a lot of what you've been saying, the rise of stablecoins, the rise of tokenization, and more enthusiasm around blockchain technologies, that often leads back to Ethereum.
The most powerful financial company on the planet, BlackRock, 12 trillion assets under management, is going much deeper into crypto than most people think. It started off with just Bitcoin.
I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, by excess deficits, and some countries are. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold.
And for a while, it seemed that CEO Larry Fink would almost exclusively only talk about Bitcoin.
I was with a sovereign wealth fund during this week, and that was the conversation. Should we have a 2% allocation? Should we have a 5% allocation? If everybody adopted that conversation, it would be 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 per Bitcoin.
If you subscribe to our channel, we showed you hints long ago of his true plan.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities.
Today, so much more info is coming to light as they can't keep it under wraps forever. Now we know what we long suspected. BlackRock truly does have huge plans for Ethereum. In fact, BlackRock is expanding the conversation away from Bitcoin now and heavily promoting Ethereum. Jay Jacobs is a CFA, U.S. head of equity ETFs at BlackRock. First of all, it's amazing that both notable experts on this panel are bullish on crypto going forward. But even more bullish is that Jay Jacobs chooses to use his time to not talk about crypto generally, but to talk about Ethereum specifically and highlight why BlackRock thinks Ethereum will be big. There's a big difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin. People want to play this potentially very disruptive theme. Listen.
So much of the rally in the S&P 500 this year has been focused on technology, whether it's large cap, mid cap, but looking at other ways to play this tech rally, there's crypto, and Bitcoin has done exceptionally well this year, Christian, but there's also more focus these days on stablecoins, tokenization. There was even a report last week that the SEC was examining letting stocks trade on the blockchain. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, we think that's coming, and it's going to be very disruptive. It's going to create efficiencies in terms of cost and time for investors. So we think this is going to be a great thing and really bring capital markets into this next century. And we think blockchain is the way to do it. There's a variety of use cases around blockchain, whether that's stable coins for payments, the Genius Act happened this year, or it's tokenization of assets, which could happen with real estate or stocks. We think this is a major theme that's going to impact not only technology, but also fintech and, of course, the crypto community. We have our Block ETF. We've been out since 2018, which is actively managed, buying blockchain and crypto equities. It's averaged 20% a year return since 2018. We're a pioneer in that space. We think the upside is going to continue, especially given the current administration and some of the regulatory moves we're seeing from exchanges as well as large market capital market players.
Yeah, this administration has been widely supportive of crypto. Jay, what are your thoughts on the best way to play this?
Well, I think a lot of what you've been saying, the rise of stablecoins, the rise of tokenization, and more enthusiasm around blockchain technologies, that often leads back to Ethereum. So there's a big difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin. Bitcoin is really this global monetary alternative, more similar in vein to the gold story. But Ethereum is really a bet on blockchain technology and other ways to use it through things like stablecoins and tokenization. So this enthusiasm has really trickled through to a lot of interest and flows into our ETH ETF, which is a spot Ethereum ETF, as people want to play this potentially very disruptive theme.
Now, we are not surprised that BlackRock's foot is on the gas promoting Ethereum. We saw this coming. To me, it's amazing to see so many financial institutions just all of a sudden coming out now saying, hey, we're using Ethereum. Joe Lubin confirms that Swift is using Ethereum. On the front page of Swift's website, they say, hey, we're using crypto technology. Joe Lubin confirming Swift using Ethereum. This is big. And even more, the insight he shares, saying sentiment has changed significantly. Listen, this is big.
A bunch of us were in Frankfurt for the announcement of Swift Ledger, and sentiment has changed significantly. Since the start of Ethereum, we had to stay on our own DeFi rail. TradFi had to stay on its DeFi rail, and never should the two touch or cross, or there be dragons, so horrible things would happen. The vibe in Frankfurt at Sibos was very different, and the feedback that we've heard from banks and that Swift leadership has heard from banks is very positive. It's basically about time for TradFi to merge or make use of DeFi.
And even more than that, this shows us that quality crypto blockchains will rise to the top. Coins getting a similar level of adoption as Bitcoin and Ethereum that have a strong narrative, that have strong tech, like Solana. Analysts now say that Solana could rally to 290 to 345 in the short term if the SEC approves spot Solana ETFs this week, with odds of approval near 100%. I mean, Ethereum's market cap is a lot smaller than Bitcoin. It's going to pump harder. Solana's market cap is a lot smaller than Ethereum. It's going to pump harder. I love this thesis here. Bitwise CIO Matt Hogan says Solana has one of the best setups for a crypto asset I've seen in 8 years. Tell me what you think.
When I look at Solana right now, I think it's one of the best setups for a crypto asset that I've seen in my 8 years of being in this space full time. You have a wave of ETFs potentially launching. You have really strong treasury companies led by charismatic leaders that are pushing the narrative. You have the stablecoin and tokenization play that people are very excited about. When you put those three things together against an asset that, again, is only a little over $100 billion in size, that's a pretty exciting setup. So I'm very optimistic for Solana for the next few months.
That's the bull case for Solana. Are there any challenges we need to watch out for?
Yeah, sure. It's not the dominant player in this space. Again, Ethereum has a larger market share. Some people are skeptical of it because of the meme coin overhang and the view that it's oriented around that space. It has historically run into technical issues. So there are always risks in every investment. But again, in 8 years, I'm not sure I've seen a setup that's as clean as this. And I'm really excited.
And it seems like Germany is getting into a different crypto after selling all of their Bitcoin earlier this year. We remember when Germany unloaded their 1 to 2 billion clip of Bitcoin. We all thought in a few years this will be looked back on as one of the biggest geopolitical blunders of all time. It will be studied in universities. And of course, just months later, we saw that it was a huge mistake. We postulated at the time, is Germany selling Bitcoin to buy another altcoin? Maybe. Well, today we have more information. It seems that Germany is closely watching XRP. This is in German. You'll have to read the subtitles. This is incredibly enlightening and bullish for XRP.
XRP steht der Spot-ETF noch in der Warteschlange, aber der Oktober dürfte da dann auch entscheidungsfindend sein. Könnte das möglicherweise durch den Shutdown andere Verzögerungen mit sich bringen?
Könnte sein, aber wir werden sehen, wie sich das auswirkt. Am Freitag der kommenden Woche wäre eine Deadline, die ausläuft, und möglicherweise starten die dann am Montag der übernächsten Woche. Also von daher, das ist mit dem Spot XRP ETF gar nicht so weit hin. Also wir haben wirklich mit dem Oktober einen entscheidenden Oktober, und wir hatten eben auch gesagt, dass Ripple die Banklizenz beantragt, und auch da gibt es einen Entscheid, der voraussichtlich für Ende des Monats zu erwarten ist. Also das könnte wirklich ein interessanter Monat werden für Ripple Labs und XRP.
So Bitcoin supply is in every way, shape, and form vanishing. ETFs now hold 1.47 million Bitcoin, that's 89% US, and public firms hold over 1 million Bitcoin, with MicroStrategy owning 63%. Bitcoin is being seen as digital gold. If Bitcoin just takes half of gold's market cap, that puts one Bitcoin at over $600,000 per coin. That's not according to me, that's according to Matthew Signal of Van Eck. So many people are realizing that Bitcoin, quality crypto, just has upside from here. Like former PayPal president just said live on Bloomberg that Bitcoin is going to 1.3 million sooner rather than later. It's still not priced in.
I still feel Bitcoin is severely undervalued, especially if you compare it to gold. Like if Bitcoin was worth as much as gold, it would be $1.3 million a Bitcoin. And I think it's just a matter of time. And I also feel like the utility phase of Bitcoin as a neutral settlement network and asset for all of the payments in the world hasn't been priced in at all. So I think it's just still so incredibly early for the asset. And
I really think Bitcoin and Ethereum break all-time highs before October is over. Either way, Q4 is looking bullish. Subscribe to Altcoin Daily, join our team. We give you an edge investing in crypto, not financial advice, of course. We keep you on the right track, though, with information.